resonances. This is a revision video to my Saturn orbital resonance video that I felt I had to take down because I went back into 3D and I adjusted the circular ringed version of the Saturn, and it did seem to line up as well as my elliptical version. So I needed some more reasoning why I decided to believe that the actual rings of Saturn are elliptical and not circular, and so I realized what was really happening here. And that is the fact that we have an octahedral magnet in the middle of heaven, middle of the earth. And it emanates these field lines, these centripetal field lines, has a dielectric inertial plane in the center, which is the celestial equator. And so these north and south hemispheric field lines are returning in on themselves, and as Saturn orbits around the celestial sphere over the course of many years, it takes 29 years to make one complete oscillation. It's not an orbit around the sun, but you'll see how Saturn is rocking back and forth like that, and also so is the celestial sphere. Well, that's only because we're skipping ahead. We're going year to year here. We're not just doing a daily rotation of the celestial sphere, and you'll see it going back and forth because Saturn is being referenced and we're experiencing sometimes retrograde motion. But what we have here is these field lines are actually influencing the tilt angle of Saturn here. If you look at the close-up here at the top right here, we'll see, we'll back that up a little bit here, where I have it tilted at plus 14 degrees tilt at 22 degrees declination. Now they will tell you that Saturn will be at a 27 degree angle in a heliocentric model. These beautiful cheesy graphics that they give you. Yeah, 27 degrees. Saturn's equator and its rings are tilted at 27 degrees. Now just think about how cheesy that looks. You know, go into Worldwide Telescope here and we'll play the ring. Look at that. It's Saturn. It's just moving across space, tilted for no good reason at 27 degrees. Why? There's no reason behind that. It stays at that. Apparently, it stays at that tilt angle constantly over the course of 29 years, and it just keeps going, just like the Earth is tilted, right? Wrong. So, when you have your foundations correct, your octahedral foundations of the Earth, everything makes sense. You realize that it has magnetic influence. It's affecting the tilt angle. The Saturn is actually tilting depending upon its latitude, or its declination, according to the magnetic field lines in the northern hemisphere and the southern hemisphere. So when it's in the northern hemisphere here, you see these purple lines. They're going to influence Saturn to tilt up more. And so when it gets at its extreme, like over there, it's tilting more so than if it was just at a 22 degree declination angle. So we get it like, we're getting this to be at like 36 degrees, 22 plus 14. And that's what I had to do in order to make it work. Like if in this 3D shot here, the side view here, you'll see I have the rings and the planet itself tilted more. The rings are actually tilting more than the actual planet is. And so I think it's very possible that those rings are actually tilting independently of the planet, probably because they're not as heavy and they can be more easily influenced by the magnetic flux lines of the octahedron. And so that's what I believe is happening there. And of course you saw the comparison shot where I showed you it's virtually, you cannot tell a difference. And that's what it's really all about in nature. There's so much camouflage in nature, so many animals. You got the mimic octopus, and you got these walking sticks, and you got the grandest camouflage of them all is the actual shape of the Earth, and it requires just wisdom and understanding the divine intellect behind it all. And so yeah, that's an oval or elliptical ringed planet. It's also kind of egg-shaped too. If you look from the side view here, it's squished front and back too, and that has to do with the fact that we're it's in motion. Talk about orbital dynamics or orbital resonance, and that has to do with the fact that these orbits are elliptical. The moon's orbits around Saturn are elliptical because they're in motion, because they're experiencing drag. Space is not a complete vacuum, and so these planets will have these pendulum wells. I talked about that already, just reiterating what I talked about here. And so they're gonna line up, one orbit to two orbits, or two orbits to four orbits. These moons are going to have this alignment happening because they're locked into these grooves of these pendulum wells, and so they're experiencing that timing. But going back to the actual magnetic field lines, I want to talk about a little bit more. You'll see how now Saturn here is in the southern hemisphere, and we have the blue field lines that are actually influencing the rings and the planet to push further down southward. And so we're going to get an extreme from Earth. It's going to look, if the rings of Saturn were circular, like they will tell you, that's where they get that 27-degree number. They'll say, okay, it has a maximum tilt of 27 degrees. Actually, it's just staying 27 degrees, and it's just from our vantage point, from their point of view, from their model. But what's really happening is that these field lines are actually influencing this planet to tilt more so at the extremes, and then when it gets closer toward the dielectric inertial plane, which is the celestial equator, it's going to straighten out before it gets there at 4 degrees. Remember I showed you in stellarium here? At 4 degrees, if you look at, you have the declination here, the top left over there, and you fast forward the months. I'm just going 1 month at a time, and you get to, right now, I started at negative 22 about, and I'm going to go up. Now it's at negative 14, and it's starting to get closer to negative 4, and there it is. I went past it. So negative 3.7. So it's a line. That's what I'm trying to help you understand. Is it's aligning up before it gets there, because see these blue field lines there. As Saturn gets closer, and these field lines are actually swaying the planet, it straightens out before it reaches the equator. See, we have reason, we have understanding here. We have form, we have function. It's reason. There's structure to it, and so that's why it's happening like that. And that's also why these rings are elliptical. It's not circular. These planets are orbiting around the outside of the celestial sphere, and they're in motion, very fast motion. Almost one sidereal day. So they're going very fast. And so we have elliptical, highly elliptical orbits. Titan is the largest moon, not only of Saturn, but of the entire solar system. And lo and behold, you'd think Titan would exhibit some kind of variance in angular diameter over the course of one of its orbits around Saturn, but it doesn't. Let's see, our angular diameter is right there. I got it in decimals, so it's 0.00019. And I go around, and it just stays. I'll even go for a day. So, what I'm trying to help you understand, that the front, when Titan is actually closest to Earth, versus when it's actually furthest away from Earth, when it's behind Saturn, it's a very narrow distance. And that's another good reason to understand that these orbits are elliptical. Orbital resonance. Comprende? So, Cassini is full of crap, NASA's full of crap. Complete fraud. The rings of Saturn are elliptical. And here's some good videos for you to understand that there is an octahedron, just the shape of the continents alone. And that's proof in the pudding right there. I mean, there's reason here. We have reasoning behind why these continents are triangular, like why South America fits perfectly snugly in the bottom triangle quadrant. And then we have South Africa fitting perfectly as well. we have reason. We have a resonant absorptive antenna that's sucking in all the light, that's causing the bending of the light and the trickery. We have crystal field theory. I explained how the spheres are formed, and octahedrons are the base crystal habit of magnetite, which is the most magnetic mineral in the world. Base crystal habit of diamonds. It's the base platonic solid for the third dimension. We have the three axes going right across, with the ligands converging. So, and then of course we have the Canadian Meteor Orbit Radar imagery that shows the octahedron. There is no reason to believe that there is not an octahedron. We have also the equatorial equilibrium points at 90 degrees to each other in the ocean that NORAD has confirmed. And so, what else can you say? So that's what's happening here, guys. It's because the octahedron magnetic field and the fact that these northern hemisphere and southern hemisphere magnetic flux lines are actually influencing the tilt angle of Saturn and the other planets as well. But Saturn, I think, is a key indicator because it has the rings. So there it is, orbital resonance. And remember, things are not as they appear to be. Thanks for watching. Later.
The revolution will be televised. You can watch it in HD and talk like a weekend warrior from the safety of your settee. The graphics won't be as realistic as Grand Theft Auto 3. Guess that makes the real unrealable, but this shit is real, baby. I guess you better turn the volume down.